Hi, everyone. This is Matthew with NHRC. We are going to get started in just a minute. Bruce is just trying to push out an email with some important information for the last part of our call about the credit reports. So we will get started here in just a minute.
Okay, welcome everybody to the Leaders in Housing Counseling call. I'm very glad everybody's joined. Looks like we have an excellent turnout today and very, very crowded agenda. We're going to dive right in, not even review the agenda. Let's just get going so that we can have enough time for everything. So Matthew, let's start up with our perennial federal funding update, and looks like we've got some movement and opportunity.
Yep. So I'll just quickly, as Bruce said, we're crowded, so I'm just going to run through this quickly. Just briefly on FY 2018. So where that stands is there's a budget agreement in place that lifted the spending caps. The Appropriations Committee now has considerably more money that they can use for domestic discretionary funding. They haven't yet done the sub-allocations where they tell each of the subcommittees how much money they have to use, but we've heard that the committee staffs are nonetheless still working on the bills. So for the most part, 18 is happening kind of at the top level with the respective chairs and ranking members of the subcommittees. There is still opportunity for us to have an impact, and predominantly the way that happens at this point is via our good friend Congressman Dent, who is on the THUD subcommittee and is a subcommittee chair himself. Just quickly, by way of positive anecdote, we heard from our friends at HPN that they were at a meeting last week or a couple of weeks ago with Congressman Diaz-Balard's legislative director. They were in the congressman's office. Apparently he didn't realize that there was a meeting happening in his office, so he just came in. When he asked what they were meeting about, they said housing counseling, and he kind of smiled and said, every time I see Charlie Dent, that's all he wants to talk to me about is housing counseling.
Not a problem there.
Yeah, so that's certainly a good indication that we and Congressman Dent are doing a good job of keeping it kind of on the front burner for Congressman Diaz-Balard, who ultimately is, the most important person for us. So we are pushing to get counseling at least level funded for FY18 at $55 million, and we're asking Congressman Dent, who's essentially agreed to push for $60 million for a slight increase, depending on what that sub-allocation looks like. So that is 18 in a nutshell. For FY19, which is happening simultaneously, hopefully folks saw that we've been pushing out our sign-on letter that we do every year. So this is a letter that's going to go out today to every congressional office, and it asks them to include $65 million for HUD housing counseling assistance when they do their request letters to the THUD subcommittee. Those letters, I believe, are due March 19th, so we're a few weeks out. But some offices, such as Congressman Dent's office, have the deadline is today for them. So our letter is going to go out today. We're still kind of cleaning it up, but it looks like we're going to have about 400 groups signed on, which is great, especially because we had a very quick turnaround. We have nearly every state. If anyone on the call is from Idaho or Oklahoma, please get in touch with me. So we definitely need you signed on. So that is our sign-on letter for 19. Really the most important thing for this call in terms of advocacy for FY 2019 now is really the opportunity that members of Congress who are not on the Appropriations Committee, this is their chance to weigh in on their funding priorities. So what we really need to happen is for as many members, so what they do is each member of Congress submits to each of the 12 appropriation subcommittees a request letter that says, these are my 5 priorities for your committee. So we need as many members as possible, and especially Republican members, reaching out to the THUD subcommittee and saying that among or at the top of my list of priorities for transportation in HUD is $65 million for housing counseling assistance. So as I said, those letters are due March, I believe it's 19, but around there. But now is the time that offices need to be hearing from folks saying that, you know, we want you to include $65 million for housing counseling assistance when you reach out to THUD. They obviously need time to hear from constituents and to put their letters together. So really now, today, this week, and next week are the time when those calls to offices need to be happening. We did circulate some talking points. I will recirculate those after the call, but briefly, the points are, you know, there is a significant decrease in federal funding for counseling as a result of eliminating the NFMC program. There's been a really significant uptick in pre-purchase counseling as the economy is improving, and that now that you know, with this budget agreement and this significant increase in domestic discretionary funding, now is the time to fund counseling at the level that it really ought to have been funded all along. So that is my very quick, or not that quick, but my recap. Bruce, is there anything you want to add, or turn it over to you?
So that was pretty rapid fire, very impressive. So just one thing, just so, as I understand it, we're really only doing this for House members right now, and that the Senate hasn't queued up yet. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a good point. We're going to hold off on doing our letter to the Senate. Their timeline is a little bit delayed from where the House is. As far as I know, they haven't even given a deadline for senators to submit their request letters. So right now the focus is just on the House side.
And then on the sign-on letter, if you are one of the few who hasn't actually signed on, still go to the letter. We will put out the one to the House, but we will keep it open for adding more signatures for the Senate, and that's going to come out a little bit later, right, Matthew?
Yeah, and that's also a good point. We want to get it in today because, for example, as I said, Congressman Dent's office, their deadline is today, but that's on the earlier side of deadlines. As far as we know, we haven't heard of any offices having an earlier deadline. So for some offices, you know, we can get it in next week and that'll be fine, but we'll send it to all the offices today and then keep it open and then resend it maybe, you know, the end of next week.
There you have it. Excellent. Okay, let's keep rolling. So another issue which we have talked a little bit about in the past has been around FHA as being one of the places where we believe that housing counseling and our work can be expanded, and that it's a pretty critical area because that's where much of the lending in communities of color and low and moderate income communities are happening in this country. And FHA has been a struggling institution, and there is not an FHA commissioner in place right now. Brian Montgomery has been nominated and has actually gone through the committee vote in the Senate twice and been approved there, but his nomination has not hit the floor. And Brian Montgomery, if you recall, was for us old hands, was around during the second Bush administration as the FHA commissioner there, has worked with us, has worked with housing counseling. Well, NHRC did not exist at that point, but has worked with many of our groups, knows our work well, and has worked with staff members at HUD that have been working on housing counseling. Also somebody who has deep experience on FHA at a time when FHA has multiple challenges and has kind of a bigger picture on how these things may work well at a time when it needs to be modernized, when there's a number of administrative issues that have to be worked out, and we hope that there's an effort to make housing counseling more well integrated into FHA, both on the front end and on the delinquency side. So the challenge here is that it wasn't a unanimous vote on committee for getting Brian Montgomery out of committee, and the vote is actually there is a hold by a group of senators, and the hold will would take a lot of time on the floor, which there isn't available to circumvent it. And so the only way to get the vote is to have the hold be pulled. And it is so. The situation, the reason that there's a hold is that we know of at least two senators, Senator Warren from Massachusetts and Brown from Ohio, who have identified the issue that Brian Montgomery, when he was at FHA, was FHA commissioner, then went to his own firm to become basically a lobbyist representing lenders and then representing them to HUD and to other government agencies during the crisis. And, is an example of the revolving door and the idea that people go into government, go into private industry, come back and forth, and are not necessarily as purely government oriented. And, we can definitely understand the position. On the other hand, I think from our perspective as practitioners in the field, we're not likely to get anybody who is as experienced and moderate in the position, and we just think that it's as good as it's going to get. And we want to be respectful of the concerns that some of the senators have raised, but also feel like it needs to come to the floor. And we believe everything we hear is that if it makes it to the floor, that his nomination will pass. And we continue to get signals about how badly needed it is to get him in place. So our view, so what we could do, and including you all in this conversation, is that there are two kind of strategies here. And we're not the only groups that are doing this, but we can certainly I think, bring some real credibility to this conversation. One of them is to contact Democratic senators that in the states where you are, and ask them to contact Senator Schumer's office and request that the hold be lifted so that it can come to a vote. And the second tact is that we want to approach Senator Warren and Senator Brown's staff directly with some of the local groups from their districts, and basically say, we understand your position, we're really not arguing with you on it. Our request is not that you vote in favor of the nomination, you can vote no, but that we ask that you pull the hold on it so that it can come to a vote. And frankly, our problem is that not nearly enough lending is happening in low and moderate income and in communities of color. This is the place where these loans can get made, and we feel that this is a critical piece to trying to improve a problematic system. And I think what happens is because we, as practitioners, bring some credibility to this conversation. Our hope is that we can be persuasive. So I think that's a simple ask. Please, if you learn anything, let us know. And if you want to be part of the Massachusetts or Ohio conversations, please contact Matthew or me. So with that note, let's keep moving. So we have, as I hope you've seen posted, there's a lot of movement and change coming up for HCO as a client management system, one of two big, most commonly used client management systems in our world. And we brought Joe Weisbord on, who's a familiar figure to you. I think he's been on these calls several times, but from Fannie Mae, and wanted to have Joe just give us a quick overview on this. We may have a couple minutes for questions, and if it becomes a deeper discussion, we can certainly bring people back for a time when they have a little bit more time, but wanted to get the basics out here. So Joe, are you with us?
I am, Bruce, and thanks to you and Matthew for having us today.
Great. So tell us what's happening with HCO.
So hopefully for those of you who are on the call who are HCO users, you got a notice from us in the last couple days letting you know that we now have a plan to retire HCO as you know it today by around the end of this year. We've done a lot of thought, put a lot of thought into this and kind of what's the right role for us and how can we better support the counseling industry. And I think we really arrived at, in consultation with a lot of folks in the field, that the idea of a CMS system that's really, designed and owned by counselors and operated for counselors makes the most sense. And so we're working with a new collaborative that includes several of the intermediaries. Many of you may be affiliated with them or certainly familiar with them. Housing Partnership Network, Home Free USA, the National Federation for Credit Counseling, and Unidos US. I believe there'll be more signing on soon. I don't want to speak for them. They issued a public release, I think, yesterday. And Bruce, I don't know if you guys were able to circulate that, but we can certainly make that available. And it describes the collaborative in a little more detail. But our feeling was having a system that was really driven by counselors and to meet their needs, but then working with us to really bridge the gap between counselors and lenders, to leverage tools like our desktop underwriter, really would ultimately provide the counseling industry with a superior tool that would further the goal of better integrating counseling into the mortgage process. So obviously this is a big announcement for us, and I know it's a big announcement for many HCO users. There are going to be a lot more details on our plan to support the transition for users, making sure that you're able to maintain the integrity of your data, that you've got sufficient training and support. The partners that are developing the system are all counseling intermediaries, and I think one of their priorities is making the system both affordable and sustainable, making sure that the costs associated with it are going to be affordable and manageable for small agencies as well as larger agencies, but also that there's an income stream that can make this a really sustainable and robust system so that it's not just good on day one, it's good for years to come because there's an income stream that enables them to provide ongoing support, training, enhancements, and keep the system up to date and take into account new technologies and opportunities that might come down the line. So really excited about this project, excited to make the announcement. Right now, we need your input. Those of you who are HCO users and got the email, there's a link to a survey. We really want you to log in, take the survey. Quite a number of people already have, which is great. That survey data is being used by the developers of the system to analyze the requirements to make sure that we're really meeting the needs of the users. There's also an email box that we've set up on the Fannie Mae side. Please share your feedback, your ideas, questions, concerns. We're monitoring that actively. My colleague Cheryl Peterson, who some of you may know, is on the line as well. We're looking at those things. We'll be issuing more FAQs and guidance in response to the questions and feedback and providing you with frequent updates on the Fannie Mae side. And I'm sure that the collaborative that is lifting up the system will be interested in sharing more of their plans as we get closer.
Well, great. And we did circulate the survey earlier in the week, so I'm sure you got a bump up from that. And then Matthew posted on the press release, the news release yesterday, and it's all helpful. And do we have questions coming in, or
just someone asked if you could share the email address for comments.
Okay, so we'll post that. We'll post that. Let's not take time.
Okay, thanks, Bruce. One other thing I should say is, we're interested in hearing from non-HCO users as well. The survey allows you to identify which CMS system you use. So, obviously, our priority is making sure that we meet and really exceed the needs of our existing HCO users. But we're interested in feedback from everyone in the counseling community that that's interested in the system. So please share your thoughts, and we'll recirculate the FAQs with the email address, and look forward to continuing to talk about this system as we get closer.
Oh, okay. Matthew, do you have some more?
Yeah, we had a couple questions. Will you be able to share the results you get from the survey?
Let me. That's really with our nonprofit partners to because they are driving this development process. So I don't see why we couldn't, share some of the feedback that we're getting in terms of, which functions we're prioritizing or new functions that may be introduced or created in response to the feedback. But I would have to defer to those guys.
Okay. And just to let folks know again, we will recirculate the information folks need. Do you have a timeline for the rollout?
Our goal is to get this done this year.
Great. And then
if as far as the contact for the collaborative, it's Lindsay Burns at HPN, who again many of you probably know, and I think her email is on the release, which you guys have circulated.
Yep, we sent that out yesterday afternoon, but we can include that in a follow-up email. And then somebody asked what aspects of the system will generate revenue.
I'm probably that's probably a little premature, but there will be some kind of a fee structure. As most folks know, HCO, certainly users are aware, HCO has been free for all these years, and that's been a good thing in a certain sense, but it's also been a weakness because there hasn't been the revenue stream to to really provide the kind of robust enhancements and support that it needs. So, again, I think the pricing structure is being developed by the collaborative, and with a lot of sensitivity to the economics of counseling organizations, and both large and small.
Great, and I think that covered the last question. So thank you very much, Joe. And we'll just say more information to come down the road.
Thanks, Matthew.
Yeah. Good. No, I think what as this develops, as it unrolls, we'll definitely want to have. And is there a name for the new program? Is it got a catchy title?
I don't think they have a name yet, but they should. I think they should have a contest, don't you?
Right. Exactly. Right. Something zippy and exciting. So what we'd like to do is at the point where it's something that becomes available to groups, we'd love to have them present on the piece, and think if there's kind of more concerns, we'll just ask for an update as we go along as a quick one. But obviously lots of interest. Do you have any idea about what the functionality will be of the new system, and will it do the kinds of things that HCO does now?
Oh, yeah. That's a minimum criteria is that it will do the things that HCO does today, and it will be a HUD compliant system. It will facilitate 9902 reporting, obviously. It's being built on the Salesforce.com platform, which has a lot of benefits in that it provides a lot of flexibility in terms of the kinds of reporting that can be generated at the individual agency level. So it gives you, you're not just stuck with the reports that are canned. It gives you flexibility to create your own reports, ability to integrate other systems. As I mentioned, we're in discussions with them about providing access to Fannie Mae's desktop underwriter so that counselors could use that as a tool to assess mortgage readiness, and have access to the underwriting messages that a lender would get, so that they could provide, really much more detailed guidance to a client on, exactly what elements of their credit or their financial situation they may need to address to get to mortgage readiness. So we think that could be a real added value for the counseling industry. And, and again, it bridged this gap between lenders and counselors so that lenders know that when somebody's gone through counseling, that the counselor's assessment of readiness is going to be very similar to the lender's assessment of readiness, and you won't have these kind of, disconnects.
And I know that the HPN folks have participated in our data standardization committee meetings, so we're very hopeful that they will be part of this whole conversation about how to make interconnectivity work smoothly by having common standards between the client management systems. I think that's an important area. David Young at Housing Action Illinois is heading up our subcommittee now on this, and that's, to us, is sort of one of the big issues, one of the big outcomes we had from the leaders meeting last summer. So hopefully that's being considered in all of this as well.
Oh yeah, I think that's Bruce. That's critical, and I think anybody that's certainly attending last summer's leaders meeting and the convening of the intermediaries last, I guess it was last September. I think we heard loud and clear that the need for some standard data, standard way of sharing information is going to be one of the foundations of being able to integrate counseling more fully into the mortgage process.
Excellent. Sounds good. Well, thanks so much. Keep us informed, and we're happy to share information on the listserv or in the calls when there's more developments.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. All right. So let's keep rolling here. So I think we have some great news, which is, as we all know, we're in our work under constant financial pressures and rising costs, and the cost of the credit reporting that we do has surged and it's a vital part of our business. It's not one we can get away from. And we are very pleased to say that we have a new partnership with CoreLogic Credco, where they're giving us, I think, excellent pricing on credit reports, and just so that everybody knows, I just sent out to the listserv literally the minute before this call started what the pricing schedule is. There's a little bit more information you need on it than what it is, but it's the baseline pricing so that people can take a look at it. It's only available to if you're a member of NHRC, but as many of you are already, so this is great news. And we'll go into more detail with Tammy Foster, who's been absolutely terrific about helping pull this all together. So Tammy, are you with us?
I am, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to be a part of this. So probably, I know a lot of the members of NHRC are probably already involved or are part of CoreLogic Credco as well. So if you haven't spoken with me, I look forward to working with everyone. If you haven't spoken with me, I'm sure we've spoken in the last 7-8 years since I've been working with credit counseling. So look forward to that. I wanted to start off with the pricing. So if you haven't received the pricing yet, I'm sure Bruce and I can get that to you if you need it. But just as an overview of what the pricing is going to look like, this is specifically just for credit counseling only. This is not pricing that will be a part of a credit report being pulled for the actual mortgage loan itself. I know a lot of you probably do the counseling and the lending piece. So if you do the lending piece, there'd be separate pricing for that. You will have the ability to pull a 1, 2, or 3 bureau. The 1 bureau credit report is limited to Experian or TransUnion. Equifax is only available to the 3 bureau. For the 1 bureau, it's $4.55 per applicant. And for the 3 bureau report, it's $13.72 per applicant. There is also a bureau surcharge that's added to all of the credit reports, and that's 30 cents per borrower per bureau. And then we also have third-party fees associated with some of the systems that we're integrated with. So we'll go over that in a moment. There is a re-access fee on the credit report cost. The re-access fee is $3. It's not normal for a credit counseling agency to incur that type of fee, but it does occur if you, for example, pull a credit report from our website, credco.com, and reissue it into a different system, for example, HCO. You're going to also see on the pricing something called secondary use. Again, this is something that usually a credit counseling agency is not going to incur. We have to put it on there because it's possible that it could. And basically it is whenever a credit report has been pulled and is assigned or provided to a completely different company. So it happens a lot when you're doing actual mortgage loans where they pull the credit report through, say, Calyx or Encompass, and then they re-access it to Fannie or somewhere else. Another product that you're going to see on the pricing is Credit Expert, which is a great tool for credit counseling agencies, which we can go over training on another webinar later if we need to, but pricing is really good for credit counseling agencies. There's two products available. One is Credit Expert Essentials. That one is $2.50. And the other one is called the What If Simulator. That one is $3. Pricing for Credit Expert. So it's per order. And when I say per order, I'm referring to you have to select an applicant, a bureau, and a Credit Expert product. When you select those items, that's when you're charged the $250. And then you have 30 days from the date you've ordered the initial credit report to pull any additional simulations at no cost unless you change the borrower, the bureau, or the Credit Expert product. And you'll see that on the order, and we can go through those specifics when we do training. Another thing that you're going to see on the pricing is a product called Dynamic Access. That's simply if you want to go in and add or remove an applicant from an existing credit report. We also have a business credit report available for you guys at $75. And then we also have what's called Enhanced Decode Directory at no cost. And basically that is just the phone numbers and addresses that show up for the creditors. Below that, under additional fees, there is state sales tax. I'm assuming all of you are nonprofit. There are some specific states that we would need to get a state exempt form for. We also have the third-party access fees, depending upon which system you're going to be pulling the credit report from. If the applicants are in Colorado, there's a surcharge for that, and that's 80 cents per applicant per bureau. And then we have the repository surcharge there, which I've already mentioned. And if you're a new customer that's going to be signing on to us as a member of NHRC, there is a one-time activation fee of $199. That includes an activation and an inspection for your office location. It is not a fee that you're going to see, again, unless you need to set up an additional location or move your office address. So, Bruce, I don't know if you want to open up any questions at this time related to pricing.
So let me clarify one thing quickly, just so that when people are looking at the pricing schedule that we sent out, the top line, which is the baseline, doesn't include the bureau fee. So for each credit report that gets pulled, it's an extra 30 cents. Is that right? So if it's a tri-merge, an extra 90 cents gets added to that fee. So that's where the 1472 comes from. So when you got emails from me, I was adding that fee in just so everybody is clear on it. So it looks like we've got questions already, and I want to make sure we also have time for just at least some broad description of what it takes to get approved if you do the if you're not already a Credco user. But let's go to questions first.
Well, so that's really the big question that's come in from a number of folks. So maybe step one would be for Bruce to talk about NHRC membership, and then we could talk about if you're already an NHRC member or once you're an NHRC member, what the process will look like. Some folks are anxious to get started.
Great news. Thank you for that, everybody. You can get our application if you're not a member already. Okay, first we should just say that if you are a member and you're caught up on your membership dues and you are already approved at I'm sorry, I keep wanting to say First American Credco, CoreLogic Credco, that Tammy has been absolutely wonderful on this. We are going to be able to, in the next week or so, be able to get you the pricing into your bill. Is that a fair way of saying that, Tammy? As soon as I get you the information, you'll be able to sit down and convert those people that are already in your system, already approved and pulling Credco.
Yeah, so I went through the list of members that you sent me and identified the ones that are currently already approved with CoreLogic Credco for pulling credit reports. There's a very, very small handful of people that have been approved but haven't used the account in a very long time that would need to go through full compliance again. But for those companies that are already active and using CoreLogic Credco, I'll work with you, Bruce, to determine the date that you want me to go ahead and get that facilitated. Keep in mind, once I do that, it usually is going to take about 2 to 3 days for everyone to get that update. When the update is done, we'll send out an email notification to let the member know when that pricing has gone into effect.
Excellent. So for people that are already members and using Credco, I think it's all straightforward. For becoming a member of NHRC, if you're not already, we are happy to send you the application. It's also on our website. We have membership dues based on the size of your housing counseling budget. Please join. We'll work with you quickly. There's an application that Credco has, and for each new applicant, we will issue a letter that identifies you as an eligible NHRC member, and that would need to go in with the application that gets submitted to CoreLogic Credco for your status. And there are few organizations that had made application and either hadn't completed it, as Tammy said, or maybe have run out the clock and are no longer. They will unfortunately have to start all over again. It does mean you'll have the $199 fee and have to fill out the application. But we don't have a way of getting around that. That is just the way it is. But actually, just to be quite candid, this is a substantial savings for many of you. So I think this will pay for itself pretty quickly. So other questions,
yeah, and
Bruce, go ahead. No, go ahead, Tammy.
So Bruce, there's only 9 members on the list that you sent me that had a relationship with us that are no longer active and need to go through that full compliance process. So it's a pretty small number.
Great. All right. So there's been a flurry of questions, and I've not really been able to kind of weed them. So kind of bear with me, please. But a few people have asked, you may have just gone over this, but just to clarify, for folks that are already using Credco, there will not be the $199 activation fee. Is that correct?
You are correct. For those that already have an account with us, there will be no $199 fee.
Great.
Oh, and also too, I'm sure this question came up. There's no minimum monthly fee for credit counseling, and there is no annual fee.
All right. This is more for Bruce. A few folks have asked that are HUD intermediaries. How will this work with their sub-grantee sub-agencies?
So they will need to be members on their own. So it's the agency that's actually pulling the credit report that will have the application with Credco, and we will issue the letter authorizing them. So if the intermediary is pulling the credit report, that's fine. Those are all covered. If it's an affiliate that's pulling the credit report, the affiliate would need to be a member. It's the same as what we did years ago, 3 and 4 years ago, when we had the other discount.
All right. I think we've kind of gone over this a little bit, but maybe also for Bruce, someone's just asking how they verify their NHRC membership. So can you just let folks know what that will look like?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for so many of you being so great about redoing it. 2017 was just a great year for us on this, and we have a chart, and I will be happy to look you up and shoot me an email if there's any question, or me or Matthew, and we will. But what will happen is, for those that are currently caught up on their membership dues, this is going to happen this month. We will, Tammy and I will work on getting this all processed so you get the discount right away.
And so just to cover some other questions, so folks who are already NHRC members who are current on their dues and are interested, do they need to do anything proactively now, or they should expect to hear from us shortly?
So actually, if you're actually, you should reach out to us if you would like to be part of this. We don't know what arrangements you've got, and we're not going to assume that everybody wants to be on this program. We understand that groups have other commitments, and that's fine. So if you're a member and have not applied with Credco already and actively using it, then you should reach out to us. And the membership received the application at the beginning of this week, along with what Tammy just described on the pricing issues. You should have gotten an NHRC members email.
All right. Sorry, Tammy, more questions for Bruce.
Popular guy.
Just about NHRC membership, could you talk about how NHRC membership works? And then someone also asked if it's monthly or annually. I'll just let folks know it's annually, but could you talk about how NHRC membership works?
If you just go to www.hsgcenter.org, that's our website. Upper right-hand corner, there's you can click a button that goes to the membership, and you'll see a page, and there's a button at the top of that, or almost at the top of that page. Underneath the photograph, there's a button that gets you to the application, and that gives you all the information. It's fairly simple. It's a membership. The check is actually made out to Tides NHRC. Some of you may remember that we're part of the Tides. It's Tides Center, but it's a foundation for nonprofits, and we're a project of Tides. But all the information you need is there. We've got a pricing schedule based on the budget size of the organization. We'll work with you if that's an issue, but frankly, it's a pretty good deal. And, you join really to support our work and all that we were just talking about it earlier on the call and plenty more. We're going to continue doing this, and our ability to stay independent and be able to do the work we do, especially the lobbying work we do, is because of the membership contributions of organizations.
All right. Excuse me. I'm going to try to quickly clear up some confusion. So just to address a question, so there's kind of two components here. One is there's NHRC membership, which is an annual membership that we send out a renewal when it's time for you to renew your membership. It depending on when you originally joined NHRC, your membership would last through that year. So to take advantage of the credit report discount that Tammy is talking about, you need to be a current NHRC member. That Bruce just worked through, but it's a suggested contribution based on the size of your counseling agency, essentially. The lowest suggested donation is $250, and it goes all the way up to $5,000 for large organizations.
$250.
What did I say?
It's $50.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. $250. Apologies. The $199 fee is completely separate from that. That's a one-time fee, and that only applies if you're not already approved. You're not already
right, and that's CoreLogic. And the nice thing about that is that that's only after you've been approved, right, Tammy? That's in your first bill, right?
Right, exactly. The $199 just shows up on the first month's invoice, so it's not an upfront fee that you have to pay. It's not a fee that you pay an inspector. It's billed on the following month. So if for some reason it doesn't pass, or we can't establish an account for you, you won't be charged the $199.
And just to further to this person's question, if you're already using Credco, there are no worries about the $199 fee. That's not going to apply to you. You do need to become an NHRC member, though, if you're not already.
Correct. If they have a, yep.
Sorry, go ahead, Tammy.
Yep, just piggybacking off of what you were saying. If they are already approved with CoreLogic Credco, they've been using the account for at least the past 2 years, there's no setup fee. They probably would have already paid a setup fee when their account was originated years ago.
Great. So a couple questions on the actual reports. The pricing that we're talking about, the person's asking if that includes the score component.
It does, yes. So the credit reports, so first of all, they're all going to be, for the 3-bureau report or 1 bureau, they're all going to be a soft inquiry. They will include all of the credit scores. It'll be the exact same scoring models that are being used when and if they actually apply for a mortgage. If you need those scoring models, I can provide that to you guys if you need it, but it's going to be the exact same scores they get on a mortgage application.
Great. You just answered the question of whether it's a soft pull. It is. Could you talk a bit about the office inspection?
Yes, so we have a contractor that we use called Trend Source, and once the application is received, the inspection is ordered. Initially, you'll get an email letting them know that the order has been received by Trend Source, and then a follow-up call from the inspector to the member to schedule the inspection. And usually that can be done pretty quickly. Hopefully you do it quickly because that will indicate or kind of gauge how long their setup will take, which, by the way, is approximately 2 weeks.
Great.
I mean, let me just jump in there and just say it requires some organizational attention to do this. So having done this in the past and maybe even more rigorous than when I did it, there's lots of issues. And hopefully, do you have a checklist or something that people can know ahead of time what to look out for, Tammy?
For the inspection, I don't. It's a pretty simple inspection. It's certainly, not as extensive maybe as some of the HUD inspections are, but it's more or less of a security check. So they make sure that it's in a secure location. They want to know if you share office space with any other companies. If you have a locked file cabinet shredder, how many people work there, that kind of stuff. And it's very rare for me to have a credit counseling agency not pass an inspection. The ones that don't pass will usually have something in their office indicating that they do credit repair, which we don't want them to have. And another instance is when one was declined was when they were sharing office space with a company that didn't have the permissible purpose to share office space with. But that's rare.
And there was signage issues too?
Yes, correct.
Definitely.
There was a credit counseling agency that we worked on within the past year that had a really big, huge banner in their office that said, "We do credit repair," which we want to make sure they're not doing. And credit repair has got a kind of a large umbrella to it. But we want to make sure that, these companies that we're setting up are only going to be doing the education, the counseling piece, and not actually repairing people's credit.
So that's a loaded word, and obviously we work with people
Yes.
to improve their credit scores and guidance and stuff like that. And but we no longer refer to that as repair. Just like we don't steer anybody to anything. It's all it has a specific definition. I remember in the past there was always a question if you are like in an office building that you have a sign on the first floor or some things that were. Is that still an issue, or maybe that's gone away?
A sign in regards to their company listing?
Yeah, so maybe that's not an issue anymore, and if it's not, no problem. I just remember that being one of the bedevilments I got to deal with.
It's not an issue, but if the inspector is going to look to see if there's a sign. If there is, they're going to take a picture of it, so that they have record of what that sign says. If they don't have a sign, either at the entrance of the building or on their door, or close by their door, they're going to ask if you have a sign being made. And if you do, then we are going to ask to see a copy of that order. But if there's no sign and there's no sign being ordered, then there's no issue.
Interesting. That's great. And then are there other challenges in filling out the application that people should be aware of?
Yeah, that might mean another WebEx, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of requirements.
Let's do that. Okay, so we will do that, and so we'll figure out a time that works for everybody, and we're interested in taking this in a deliberate way. So we'll do a separate from the leaders' calls. We'll do a separate thing for anybody that wants to make application or wants to know more about the system.
Yeah, so that would be great. And just as an overview of that, and just some highlights off of the compliance issues. There's an agreement and, company information and stuff like that. You do need to make sure that you are a nonprofit organization. The organization needs to be listed on the HUD.gov list as an approved credit counseling agency. If you're not, we'll work with you on that. And then we also require a bunch of other documents like a fee schedule, marketing materials, intake forms, that kind of stuff.
Great. We've got a ton of questions, so we're going to get to as many as we can. And so we've gone over this, but I just want to make sure that we're perfectly clear because there are still questions coming in. So if an agency is not currently an NHRC member, Bruce, can you just quickly walk through the process? So first, they're going to become an NHRC member, which they do by going to our website, printing out the application,
sending us a check and the application, and then you will get a warm note from me personally, acknowledging your membership, and we'll also send you the material along with everything else. We'll send you the materials for making an application on the credit for the credit program we just talked about. We're not assuming you're going to join. That's up to you then on that, but we will send you the materials you need. And Matthew and I just talked about this, Tammy, that we think that the easiest way to address the is somebody a valid eligible NHRC member is to send that with the application to the new member, and then they can include it in the application sent to you. Does that sound?
That would be preferable, yes. Thank you.
Okay. So that's the plan.
All right. So just to summarize, so it's not that you join NHRC and then join Credco as someone a non-NHRC member would do. Once you join NHRC, or if you're an existing member, you'll get specific directions from us on what you need to do to take advantage of this. Is there a user fee for multiple? There'll be multiple people pulling reports. Is there a fee associated with that?
There is no additional fee for multiple users. The only additional fee that they're going to see, other than what we discussed, is any third-party fees associated with the system they might be pulling a credit report through. So the systems that we're currently integrated with is definitely HCO. We are integrated with Counselor Max. We are integrated with RX Office, and very soon, within the next month or so, we're going to be integrated with Vista Share. So Counselor Max does have a third-party fee, and RX Office has a third-party fee as well. I'm not sure about Vista Share yet, but I don't think that's been addressed.
Great. And a few folks had asked about Counselor Max and whether they would have to pay the activation fee. I think that just depends on, or will you cover that? It's not one way or the other necessarily. Is that correct? Or
Credco doesn't charge a fee to relate it to Counselor Max other than the cost of the credit report and that third-party fee. So specifically for Counselor Max, that third-party fee is $1.50 per applicant. But you're not going to be charged for any additional users. If you do, that's something that gets charged to you by Counselor Max.
I may have asked the question poorly, but essentially, if someone's pulling reports through Counselor Max, are they necessarily getting them through CoreLogic?
Yes, they are. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so someone who's an NHRC member using Counselor Max, there's not going to be the $199 activation fee.
There will be a $199 activation fee if they currently don't have a relationship with CoreLogic with CoreLogic Credco yet.
Okay.
So the $199 is applied to a company that currently does not have a relationship with CoreLogic Credco and wants to submit the application to become approved with us.
And them using Counselor Max doesn't say anything as to whether or not there'll be an activation fee or not.
Correct.
Okay, great. Sorry for that. That may have been my confusion. Do you offer the service that allows agencies to report credit to the 3 bureaus?
We do not.
Someone asked about how long these prices will be locked in. Will they be going up over time? I don't know if we've gotten that far yet.
So pricing, so we do have an indication on the pricing that pricing is subject to change within 30-day advance notice. I don't see any foreseeable price increases at all. Out of experience, I do see price increases that go into effect at the beginning of every year. So I would potentially expect that. Other than that, I don't have anything that I'm aware of that's going to increase the cost anytime soon.
Great. Oh, could you just talk about the difference between Essentials and What If Simulator?
Yeah. So basically, Essentials looks at the credit report as a whole in regards to balances. So when someone uses Essentials, they're going to put in how much money the consumer might have. It'll look through that whole bureau data, and it'll determine what the potential score change would be, how much cash is actually going to be needed, and where to specifically apply that to. So it helps when you are working on an action plan so that they know specifics in regards to what they need to pay down. Also within Essentials, you can put in a score increase amount. So if they want a score increase of 40 points, let's say, it'll come back and it'll tell you if that 40 points is possible, how much cash is going to be needed, and where to specifically apply it. The What If Simulator works specifically with individual trade lines. So you can go into their credit card or whatever account you want to go into. You can do multiple trade lines at the time, and you can simulate changes to those trade lines in regards to balance, payment, history, as well as simulating the account to be deleted. The What If Simulator also has available feature in there where you can simulate the score change within a length of time. So if you're going to be working with them for 6 months and you want to know what their score change is going to be in 6 months, you can simulate that as well. You can also indicate if they're going to be opening a new account. So if they're going to be getting a new car, a new credit card, there's features in there that you can indicate that, and it'll tell you what the potential score change would be.
All right. There's a request for your email. Do you mind if we circulate that, Tammy?
Yes, that's perfectly fine.
And will you just give it to me, and I'll put it in the chat box?
You know what? Let's just do that. Yeah.
Okay. A few folks have asked for applications. I think we've covered that pretty well. If you're an NHRC member, you already received an email, and if you're joining as a new member or getting caught up with your renewal, then you'll be getting it at that time. I'm not sure, Bruce, if we want to get into this. Somebody asked, what do you mean by credit repair? Do you want to elaborate on that at all, or?
So, Tammy, is there a definition? I realize there's a terminology issue, but is there a definition that you guys use?
We view credit repair as a company that is going to charge a consumer to fix their credit for them versus educating them and telling them how to do it on their own. So we want to make sure that, you know, a counseling agent, well, first of all, it has to be a HUD-approved credit counseling agency. And usually HUD has some pretty main requirements in regards to credit repair as well. But basically, we want to make sure that a company isn't charging a consumer and telling them we're going to fix your credit by, you know, sending out these letters, you know, doing this all for you. We want to make sure that the credit counseling agency is educating the consumer and not charging them to do that process for them.
All right. Is there a feature for disputing issues on the credit report?
Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up because I wanted to mention that. So we do have a consumer services where they can call us and they can do a couple of different things, and I can provide a brochure on that if you need it. So a consumer can call and get a copy of their credit report for free, mailed to them if they need it. We can also assist them in understanding their credit report and what it all means. And then we can also assist them in the dispute process. So when they do that dispute process, there's no cost for that. We'll send a letter to the Bureau. The Bureau will do their research. We'll get a response back, and then we'll let the consumer know what that response is. And that's usually done within 30 days.
So I'm just trying to figure out, we're at the end of the hour. Do you have a few more minutes, Tammy, if we have a lot more questions? And do we have more questions?
Just a handful.
Okay.
So probably should just take a minute. So when is this pricing available? Essentially now, right? Once you've kind of gone through the whatever process you need to go through?
Yeah, so I'll be working with Bruce on when that's going to be implemented. So if we want to do that this week, I just need to know what date, and then just allow a couple of days for that to go into effect.
All right.
I'll be working on this on Monday and Tuesday, so that's when we'll submit, and so hopefully by the end of the week, certainly by Monday of next week, of the following week, that sounds like it should work. Is that right, Tammy?
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I have no major appointments scheduled those days or next week, so we should be good.
Excellent. Great.
I think we've covered the remaining questions pretty well. Thank you so much, Tammy.
And as a process, we will do. We should schedule a WebEx sometime, or however we do it, right after we get the new members coming in, and that'll be a much deeper dive on some of the technical questions, and that'll be helpful. I think review some of the material we just had. So this has been terrific. Thank you so much, Tammy, and we will continue working on this and talking with people. Certainly, if you have questions, shoot us an email. I'm traveling the next few days. We have our Tampa big event. The Tampa Bay area groups have done a really good job, and that will be coming up on Saturday. But I'll be back in Philadelphia on Monday and working on this and be able to respond to people at that point with more information. And we'll circulate a little bit more after this call. But this has been terrific, and thank you so much. So next, in 2 weeks, we'll have James Ruddick from CRM. Well, he's from Northwest Side Housing Center, and we've had James on the call before. As you know, he's always been a source of lots of innovation, and he's developed with Microsoft a client management system that's up and running now. It's available and it's free, and it's based on capacity which exists already in Microsoft Office. And so it'll be interesting to see what he has. It's been approved at HUD, and so it's 9902 compliant and available. And James will be, I think, as usual, forthright self, so we'll have a good sense of what it does and doesn't do, but what the opportunities are there. And we'll certainly have more updates on funding as well. Also, just a quick reminder to join NHRC if you haven't already. Obviously, the credit reporting discount is another nice advantage, but hey, the real reason to do this is to support the work we're doing, because we support the work you're doing. And we have all been in this together now. We're 5.5 years old, and you know, I just have to say it because a couple of you said it to me recently. We have covered a lot of ground in this time, and thanks so much for everybody's deep commitment here. Looks like the participation in the Leaders Call this year has really surged. We have been deeply engaged with people on the Hill, and we're now engaging more with the administration. So creating opportunities, and we are thinking a lot about how to be more useful to people in the field. And a series of innovations in housing counseling is going to continue. So we're looking for more. If you want to feature your work that you're doing that generates new income that other groups might be able to replicate, now's the time to let me know, because we're filling up the sessions in the spring this year, and would love to squeeze in a couple more before the end of the spring. So with that good note, thanks everybody, and we'll be back on the next call in 2 weeks. Thanks. Bye.